Digital currency that's centralized by the state is terrifying because they'll connect it to a social credit score system.
Yeah.
If they connect it to a social credit score system, Tulsi Gabbard, I don't like what you said on the Joe Rogan Experience. We're going to go and eliminate your ability to fly.
Right.
You can't fly. You can't travel. You can't buy gas anymore.
Yep.
Which is what they do in China.
It's all within the realm of possibility. And you look at that, and what is the recent thing of, I think Elizabeth Warren was pushing for credit card companies to start tracking people who buy ammunition and firearms and report that to the government.
So think about that, folks. With a digital dollar, they'll track your every move. Already they're doing it in many respects with the system that we have now. You think your money is actually in a bank? Your money's not actually in a bank. It's a digital print of your money in a bank, but your money's not actually there. This is the next step to put total control of all of you, the public. Well, a very good friend of mine has been on the forefront of speaking out against this digital currency run by a federal government. He's a big believer in cryptocurrency, and he's become an expert on the issue. I'm talking about Otto Gomes. Otto, it is great to have you on the program, my friend.
Thank you, Grant. It's always a pleasure to be in your presence.
All right, so I appreciate that. The feeling's mutual. Otto, what do you think about what I just said, what Joe Rogan just said, what even Tulsi Gabbard, who I don't have great trust in Tulsi Gabbard. I would warn everybody about her. Let's keep our eye on her. But what she said there, in my opinion, is correct. What do you make of what they said?
It's 100% true and possible what they're planning to create programmable money. You know, where not only can they track and trace what you're doing, but then they can decide or create a threshold, a limitation of how much you can spend. You know, centralize anything, in my opinion, will always invite the divisive mindset and scrutiny from centralized governments and centralized systems.
So the Federal Reserve comes out, Otto, and says, hey, all you banks out there, don't operate in cryptocurrency. When many of the big banks have started to operate in cryptocurrency, what is the motivation of that message from the Federal Reserve?
Stop looking at that. Look at mine. But simply put, you know, it's like they see the potential. Blockchain is a tool, and they see the potential of its ability to create sovereignty or to create freedom. And so, you know, as any tool in this reality, they're taking that tool and creating for themselves and making a centralized version of the decentralized, you know, perspective of blockchain that we all have. So the centralized versions are the ones that we need to become aware of so that we're not falling into that trap and then not have a choice to leave when we're in it.
And we know the government, I can't think of anything good that the federal government does. You could maybe say the military. From an operational standpoint, I would agree. But from running it efficiently, I would not agree. The Defense Department's probably one of the most inefficient agencies in all of federal government. So there's not a lot the federal government does well. Now it wants this digital dollar. And I don't think they're well-intentioned by a digital dollar. I think ultimately they want to push you away from crypto, as you say, decentralized, meaning there's no one entity that's controlling all of this. We kind of have control over crypto. I believe they're nefarious, the federal government, in all of this.
Yeah, you know, one thing that happened recently was the 87,000 plus IRS agents that they wanted to hire. And there's this whole fear around it. My opinion is that this was created so that we can rely, so that there's this push towards AI, artificial intelligence, for the blockchain. So it's like they're trying to put some pieces of the puzzle together through fear so that they can facilitate the centralization. But yeah, anything centralized, anything coming from a central governing power is going to be biased. It's going to be biased to perpetuate profit and power.
And you talked about bias earlier. I mean, it is interesting that here they have this digital currency run by the Federal Reserve that they're trying to push through, and they're saying, oh, don't use this other product, which is really all crypto is. Don't use that, use ours. Now, you've been a big proponent of putting money into crypto, and you use the same line that I actually use when I tell people to buy gold, is don't worry about the price of it, hoard it, start collecting it. Explain to me the philosophy behind that.
Yeah, I would say it's even a little different than, very different than commodities, because commodities, we really don't know how much gold is out there. You know, nobody's really gone out and tried to figure out the exact number of gold that exists that's still buried. So that's still up in the air, really. With I say that about crypto, about Bitcoin specifically, because hard coded into the protocol, into itself, is deflation and finite. It's finite. That means that there's not any more of that specific asset being created, and as time moves on, less and less of it is mined out or is printed out.
So you would think with that
scarcity.
You would think the price would be go up, but we saw the price of crypto fail. You still telling people to invest in it? I'm scared to death, Otto. I will be honest with you. The whole thing scares me. I've lost money in it before. I do understand there is value in it, but really, I'm scared to death about putting my money in it right now.
It's variables. I always tell people the first step into crypto is educate. Get educated, know the layers. Some variables that exist in the crypto space that don't exist anywhere else. It's never been created anywhere else. It's mining power, or the processing power to sustain the network. The miners, the people that are sustaining the networks, they're having sort of a say in the price direction. Because think about it like this: if the price of Bitcoin goes down, then that means that the profitability of mining goes down. That means that they have a choice. They either sell their product, right? Sell the Bitcoin that they mined, sell the actual miner, or turn it off, because they're paying electricity bills and all that. So they have to be profitable. And then eventually the price keeps going down because the traders, they realize that the it's becoming easier and easier to mine it out. And so it has to match the output of Bitcoin to the processing power that's supporting it. It does it all by itself. And then eventually, once the price hits a certain point, then the miners, it's profitable again. And then the miners start turning their miners back on and start to buy the miners again. And then we go into the next cycle. So there are variables that are in place that regardless of politics, regardless of the dollar price of Bitcoin, it forces the scarcity, right? It forces the rarity. And so then price kind of follows that.
Ultimately, wherever the price is, the government does not have control over this. You have a wallet, and I don't want to get too in depth because it makes people's heads spin, basically, virtually. But you have a wallet where this stuff resides. The federal government cannot access it, can it?
No. What's great about Bitcoin is, so for the longest time, we've given our power, we've given the accumulated value of our wealth onto the hands of the banking industry. We got to save money, and we put it in our savings account. Crypto is giving us the opportunity to self-custody, to take that energy, the accumulated value, and put it in our own bank. Imagine being your own bank, where you're housing all the value of your wealth. And then you can even do mechanisms that the bank does, like loan out money and do those kind of peer-to-peer, we call it peer-to-peer decentralized finance. But that's the goal here, is to take back ownership of that energy so that it's not in the hands of the government.
So think about this. The government doesn't have access to it. Now you are your own bank. Now you can loan money. You could ultimately end up making money on that. You could ultimately end up putting the banks out of business. Banks realize this, which is why they get into crypto. The federal government freaks out and says, no, you can't get into crypto because now too many people have control, and the big giant federal government, doesn't have any control. And this is why they come up with this ultimate digital currency, this digital dollar. And last question I want to ask you is on this idea of a social credit score. We see this already unfolding in China. China uses a social credit system to basically rank its citizens. Those who behave have a better opportunities in China than those who, quote, do not behave in the eyes of the government. What is your last warning to the people of America as they watch our government go down this path?
Well, it's, in my opinion, it's an inevitable direction that they're moving. It's the cause and effect of becoming aware of systems that are controlling you. Those systems are really put in place to just perpetuate profit and power, and the people that benefit from that are benefiting from it. So, in my opinion, is become aware, educate yourself on what's happening, so that you can have a choice. I think that the problem here is that people are living their lives without getting educated or being willing to expand their mind about what's happening, and they're just going down the path that they've been in for so long and that they felt comfortable in and feel normalized in. Yeah. So really challenge yourself, in what feels uncomfortable, because it's only in the uncomfortable is where we're going to be able to grow and see the difference of like, oh, there's a different system. There's something new here.
That is very true. Otto Gomes, where can people find you?
So if you want to work with me, ottogomes.live, that's my website. Or you can also find me on Instagram at OTOGOMES, Otto Gomes.
Well, I appreciate you laying this out for us. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you, brother. Talk soon.
Absolutely, buddy. Absolutely.